Well, hello and welcome to another guest interview here on the Profit with Law podcast. I'm your host, Moshe Amsel, and today I'm excited for the conversation we're going to have. Now, it's interesting because we have lots of marketers who come on the show, and we have all kinds of conversations around marketing. But one of the things that I found is having a CMO in your law firm is massive in taking off of your plate the thing that most business owners struggle with. I'll say second to struggling with the financials. Like I think the financials is like the most complex, and then right behind it is marketing, and just getting your marketing dollars to turn into leads and clients is the second hardest thing to do in your business. And I recently had Cassidy Lewis on the podcast. My team will find the episode for you. Actually, I'll pull it up real quick. But Cassidy Lewis is the CMO for a personal injury firm in Virginia, and we had a conversation here on the podcast. She's amazing, but I have since brought her in as a coach in our coaching program, in our elite coaching program. And she, as a matter of fact, her call is today at 12:30. It's in 2 hours. And she's going to be supporting my coaching clients when it comes to marketing, kind of like being the CMO once a month in their law firm. And what's interesting is that is probably the most valuable thing that they get in the coaching program is her call. Because the CMO has the ideas. The CMO comes up with the agenda of what you want to do and what are the metrics you're going to watch to track it. They don't necessarily do the doing. They don't necessarily do all the work, but they're going to drive the strategy. So grow your law firm through intentional and strategic marketing with Cassidy Lewis is the podcast episode. It's episode number 334, and you can find it at profitwithlaw.com/334. If you're in the shower, driving the kids, out for a run, whatever it is you're doing while listening to this, don't worry, we have you covered. There's a resources section in the podcast show notes. You can simply click the link there to jump over and listen and catch that episode. But we don't have Cassidy here today. Today, we have Carrie Flynn. Carrie Flynn is the founder of Virtual Simplicity, and she's a fractional CMO and growth marketing consultant who helps law firms specializing in wills and trusts and estates and probate grow legacy businesses by planning their marketing actions in a strategic and sustainable way. Whether she's helping firms expand into the online space or helping service them leverage digital marketing to make a bigger impact, Carrie helps her clients earn a significant income without having to work more hours in their firm. Carrie, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited. Yay.
As am I. So before we jump into I have a bunch of questions, but before we jump into that, what I like to do with every guest that comes on the show is I just gave the official bio,
right.
But people want to know who the heck you are, right? So Who is Carrie? How did you end up getting into marketing? Why CMO? Why fractional CMO? Why law firms? Why specifically estates, probates, wills, trusts?
I have a very specific reason for that. I do have an answer for that one for sure.
So give us the broad strokes. Let people know who you are and your story, and then we'll jump into a conversation around your area of expertise.
Sounds awesome. I'm Carrie Flynn. I actually live in Florida. I live near Orlando in a town called Mount Dora. I'm a native Floridian. I grew up in Jacksonville. Before I got into marketing, I was a public school teacher for 15 years, believe it or not. So I have a sort of unique trajectory. I didn't get an MBA. I didn't go to business school. I was a school teacher. And probably about 8 or 9 years ago, I was kind of recognizing that I was not happy and not fulfilled in that role. And so I started exploring getting into marketing, and started kind of in that side of the business, but in the online space. So I really started in online digital marketing and digital spaces. My husband's in sales, and so it was a pretty simple transition for me because I'm very familiar with what he does. And my mother was also in marketing too. So it was very comfortable for me to like make that transition. But I did a lot of on-the-job training. So I went and educated myself. I became a certified master marketer, a certified consultant, and certified digital launch manager throughout that time that I was kind of starting. And I think you asked how I got into law firms and why I like wills and trusts so much. So it's kind of a decision that I made a couple of years ago and sort of flowed into. And fractional CMO came from, I highly value relationships, and I really like to kind of dig into a company's details. And I love consulting. Don't get me wrong. That's a great starting place, a short-term kind of commitment. But being a fractional CMO allows me to have 4 to 5 really good clients or firms that I can invest in and really dig into their firm, and allows me to support them in a really good one-to-one way. So that's why I sort of naturally went that direction, I would say, versus maybe specializing in a specific skill or being project-based. I just felt that I was lacking the kind of relationships that I really like to have with the clients and firms, team members, the vendors they work with. That was really important to me. So when you're a fractional CMO or a CFO or even the CEO, if you're working in the operations side, you get to have that relationship, but it saves the firm a significant amount of income by not needing to hire a full-time employee. So it actually is a benefit to them too. Why we decided to niche into will and trust is actually personal. My husband's father passed away 2 years ago in May. And he did not have a will, didn't have any sort of trust or anything kind of laid out. Now, it wasn't like a sudden death, but it was definitely happened pretty quickly. And that was very, very challenging for my mother-in-law to navigate. Whereas my own mother has everything written out, everything planned down to the T. She has a living will, a will for her death. She has everything written out. And so one of the reasons why I decided to sort of get into that niche and became very interested in it was because I saw the sort of effects personally of what can happen when you have that, and how that affects your children and your family when you do have that in place versus what can happen when you don't. And my husband's the oldest child, so it just was mentally very difficult for him. So I'm pretty passionate about it. And so that's how, when we thought about niching and wanting to niche and get a little bit more clear, that was the most natural to me to go in. And that's how I ended up there. It's a very long-winded answer, but
yeah, no. And when your entire business model relies on serving 4 to 5 clients, it's a lot. It makes a lot more sense.
right.
If I understand how to bring in clients to this specific type of firm, then I can help all these clients in the same way. I don't need to figure different things out. If one was a criminal attorney and one was a family law attorney and one was a business attorney, you got to figure out each of their target markets.
The messaging is very different. The sales cycle is pretty similar, but the messaging and how you would emphasize where to put your time and money in marketing might vary. And as somebody who worked in digital marketing, where the businesses really vary, it's actually really, really challenging to streamline and systemize. So systemizing is super important to scale. So it just makes it easier when you focus in.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's jump into, your secret sauce, right? What you do. I want to start at just this idea of a fractional CMO.
Mm-hmm.
Many of our listeners are sitting, and what I try to do here as the host is I try to envision what's the burning question on their mind right now. And I think that the burning question on their mind is this a conversation I should even be listening to?
Right.
Am I ready for a fractional CMO? Am I too big for a fractional CMO? Right. So, it's basic. If you're big enough, you would have a CMO on staff, right? If you're too small, you can't afford a CMO. So what is the window of opportunity? What size business from a revenue perspective would be ready to look at? Hey, maybe I should think about getting a fractional CMO, and when are they big enough that they probably don't need it anymore? What's that range?
I would say, in my experience, mid-size to boutique, like boutique to mid-size, in terms of the company. You know, if your revenue is probably close to 7 figures or right at 7 figures, and then that range would probably go up to maybe like 15 million.
Mhm.
I would say is a good. Now, these are like ranges, so there's no
Of
like
course.
every firm and every company is unique, and so everybody's needs will vary. But in general, that's been my experience revenue wise. My part of what I know is my job is I try to help the clients or firms prepare themselves to be ready to invest and hire a full-time employee. Like, I know that's, to me, that's not every CMO's vision probably, but to me, like, my goal is, if that's their desire to get to a place of revenue where they can have a full-time marketing director, that is part of my job, is to get them to that place and then help train and bring that person on. And then I can leave like that. I'm fully okay with that. And so that I kind of look at that as part of my job, if that's their definition of success. Some of
Right.
them want to stay in that place of mid-size to boutique, and they just want to continue working fractionally. And that's okay as well. I think it starts with, what do you want? And then once you know that, what it is, you know, then you can look at the range and see. I would say if you're below 7 figures, you might be ready for some consulting or maybe some like marketing implementation services, but maybe not quite ready for the CMO, just because it's really important to be paying attention to your financials every month. And we don't want to be investing, you know, a significant amount of that into a CMO if that's going to cause some issues with our financials where we're not profiting, we don't have good cash flow. We don't want to be in danger, like red. We don't want to be in the red or close to the line. That's we don't want that. So I would never encourage somebody to put themselves in that position financially.
Okay, so let's just assume that, you know, we've now, our audience now understands where a fractional CMO sits. And by the way, folks, if you're less than $1 million in revenue, which I'm sure that there are listeners in that category, at more than 15 million, you're probably not listening to my show. If you are, I love you. Thank you so much for being
amazing.
here.
Thank you.
And you may still glean something from this conversation, but less than $1 million, I want you to listen real close. Probably 90% of what we're going to talk about today, and I have no idea what that is, but probably 90% of what we're going to talk about today has some relevance to you.
Yes.
So don't go anywhere. Stick around.
Yes, agreed.
Stay
I was
with
just going to
us.
say, you still need to listen, because there are services that most CMOs provide. Even if their main offer is CMO, there's still other things that we offer and that other CMOs would offer that can benefit you. So just hearing my highest offer doesn't mean that there isn't something that you can get support with.
Yeah, so let's dive into just differentiating, because one of the things that you said is like, okay, there's, you know, you might be ready for contract services, but not a CMO. What does a CMO do, and what does a CMO not do? In other words, are you just driving strategy and then putting the right contractors in place, or are you actually doing the marketing legwork? Like what is actually happening in your relationship with your clients?
That's a good question. I would say the way I look at it is I make it happen, but I'm not doing it. That's a good way to like describe it. So we have kind of a couple 3-pronged approach, but the top 2 are the 2 that I spend the most time in. I am like an overseer. I'm at the 30,000-foot view of the marketing. I oversee the marketing in a firm or a company. That's my job. And that includes the strategy, being a thought partner with the CEO or whoever is the person that puts themselves in that seat in the firm. That can be one person. Sometimes it's, you know, multiple people. It just varies. But I also am in charge of looking at the team members involved that they have, that are the implementers. They might be working with vendors, other people who aren't employees. And how can I get everybody together on the same like path, like bringing everybody together and getting them all going in the same direction? And it's also part of my role to make sure that people know what they're doing. There's deadlines and milestones. We all kind of know what's going on, and everybody has their thing and they know when it's due and et cetera. So I drive team as much as I do projects, as much as I do strategy. So they're all really important. And sometimes people have team members that can help me with that. And sometimes I bring my own people with me to help with that process. It just depends on the firm.
Okay, I understand. You also talked about digital marketing, and you know, there's a whole slew of marketing, everything from your online presence and you know, Google search and SEO to offline, like billboard and TV commercials and just friends and family and referrals and things like that.
All that.
So do you look at the other stuff, the offline stuff, and is that part of the overall strategy?
It is. Yes. I kind of specialize in growth marketing. So I'm looking at, like, one of my past coaches would say there's like really 4 lanes or 4 buckets of marketing. You know, you have your paid traffic, of course. You have your organic social media, but then you have like, you know, relationship marketing, which that's all sorts of like things, like you just mentioned a couple of them. And then you have search categories like YouTube and podcasting and SEO. So there's lots of different things. And so we sort of look at the buckets, and it's my job to sort of be able to evaluate and see all of them and find the best opportunities for a firm based on where they are, who they serve, what their unique value proposition is, and help them to put the energy towards the right things. So they're not wasting their time and money on a particular type of marketing that maybe isn't effective or necessary for where they are. So yeah, I have to kind of know enough to be dangerous in each area, but I don't necessarily, or most CMOs are not always going to be experts in every little thing in marketing. We sort of have this bigger picture view on all of it.
I love that. But I also think this is an opportunity to dive into a little bit deeper in our conversation, because for our listeners who don't have a CMO, right? There's 4 lanes that you just described. How should they approach that or look at that and determine where is the best opportunity, or where is the most growth going to happen? Where should I focus my energy? And I see this in my direct clients that are in my programming as well. Like there's a constant conflict between, hey, pay-per-click is going to probably return the most clients the fastest, but you need to spend a lot to get it working and get it right, and you know, have that client machine running. And at the same time, we know, I mean, there's a huge value in having that offset with free clients that are coming in through referrals and things like that. So how should our listeners approach this? Is there some sort of flowchart kind of questioning that we can go through that helps them to kind of figure this out?
That's a good idea for a lead magnet. Thank you. Just like, flow chart. I should make a little like directional chart for this. I would say in my experience with law firms, or really anybody in professional services, so this could really apply to financial firms, like really anybody in that professional bucket. So if you're listening and you're not a law firm, it still would maybe apply to you. But if the most important, I would say that it's key to think about what's the biggest important thing to you. So in conversations that I've recently had with lawyers who are in law firms, it was really interesting. The feedback was not necessarily worried about revenue growth, but very, very focused on lead generation that they can turn into great clients. And that's naturally going to lead to revenue growth. So I think it's important to know what's really important to you. You also need to keep in mind, who are you serving? And where are they at? What is their behavior? Like, It's not necessary for a client to be on Instagram, for example, if their ideal client is somebody who's hanging out on LinkedIn. Like that doesn't really compute. So that's also important to keep in mind. So what's the best opportunity? Look at your site. If you don't necessarily have to pay per click, because if you're paying per click and then they go to your site and there's like 17 decisions for them to make, like that's a waste of money. Like that, like we need to be able to optimize like the place we want them to go to first. So make it really clear for them with a pop-up, we need a chat bubble for them to ask questions. We need a really clear call to action at the top. There's just little tweaks that you can make to the place you want them to hang out and go to. So if we're driving them to our site, like, and that's not optimized, like we're kind of wasting money at that point. And that's not good. We don't want to do that. That's one of the biggest opportunities at the beginning. I'm like, oh, we need to fix this, and this. It's just few little things on your website. And then think about where you're spending your time on social media. So if you are spending time there, you need to know where your people are at. Like, and if you don't know that, if you can't answer that to me, like about your ideal client, then we would be doing some work around deep diving. It's called an escape and arrival exercise, but we would be deep diving into your clients, ideal clients, like all the things, pain points, desires, all this, because that will help us figure out how to talk to them and where they're at. So if you couldn't answer that question to me, if you're listening to this, then stop what you're doing. Don't pay for anything. And we need to work on that first before we get, those are the two biggest things I see people struggle with, is those two areas, I would say.
Okay. So if I know who my ideal client is, I know where they hang out. And I also have a clear call to action on my website.
You got all that. Yep.
Everything is pointing in the right direction.
Perfect.
Then what?
Then you can look at expanding into like pay-per-click. Then I would be comfortable going, okay, let's take put a little gas on this fire, right? So for a lot of firms, that could be a lot of the people I've worked with are looking at kind of the Google side of it. So they may not be spending as much investment on Facebook, paid advertising, or some of these others. You may be looking at like pay-per-clicks from the Google side, and that's okay. I'm okay with you if you have everything optimized on your site, if you have a really clear person you're trying to target. I'm okay with you at that point dancing into the paid marketing bucket, the paid traffic bucket, and starting to invest a little bit of money. And at that point, I would also really encourage you to look at the relationship marketing bucket as well. If you're not in a situation where you're optimizing past clients, having a real clear plan to get your past clients to be advocates for you and make great referrals, I would be encouraging you at that point to look at that. That's what creates lifetime customer value, having a path to take them there. And if you don't have a place where you're naturally networking as a thought leader, then I would be encouraging you to look at some options for that too at that point. And there's lots of ways to do that. There's no one right or wrong way to be somebody who's networking. There's plenty of networking groups and places in person and virtually.
So let's talk about optimizing the total value of a client or getting that relationship marketing. What are some of the best strategies that you implement when it comes to harnessing that power? Like what are some ideas of what our listeners can do to really enhance that relationship marketing side of it?
Yeah, I would say when it comes to your clients, like a lot of times when someone becomes a client and then the service, however long that varies from law firm to law firm. Of course, each type of law firm, the length of that service might be different. But typically speaking, that the communication with that particular client tends to like disappear or go away like the second they've paid you and the service is complete. And what I'm encouraging people is to consider adding some strategic follow-ups, giftings. It can be simple as automated email check-ins, mailers, just small little things that you can do to invite them back into your space. You can also look at promotional options and looking at ways to provide maybe an additional service, getting them to do what we would call in the digital space an upsell, type of a deal. So maybe they came to your firm. I'm just going to use wills and trusts as an example. So maybe they came for a will to get their will done, but they did not do this thing over here. Maybe there's a way we do an upsell with them to bring them back in as a promotion. There's lots of different kind of communication, but following up with them and communicating is like huge. It's the number one thing. And you can even look at having a referral partnership or a program that you maybe develop within your firm, if that would work for you as well. There's so many unique, creative ways that you can communicate with people, but just letting them kind of drop off and never talking to them again is kind of like the biggest mistake I see quite a few, not just firms, like lots of businesses do that.
It's interesting because I just thought of something. There's a company that primarily does insurance for business owners,
Right.
Locally, and they have once a year that they rent out a theme park or something like that, and they invite
That's great.
and they invite all of their clients to come free of charge. Bring your family,
Yeah.
And just host them.
Yeah.
And when you were talking about like find ways to build that relationship capital post engagement, it suddenly hit me like, wait a second, you can do like a family barbecue or like
It could be simple. Like I have a past client who she does a mixer once a year. It can be really simple. It doesn't have to be, you can absolutely go hard and do a theme park. If you have the money to do that, by all means, like invest, because it's really worth it. This is like going to pay you dividends. But even if it's as simple as I rent out a restaurant or what have you, or have it at my office, you can even have it at your office and just have it catered, but just something simple like that and inviting people, it really makes a huge difference. But you can absolutely start with like automations. You can add in automated email check-ins, texting, like people have their phones now. You can add in text messaging automation check-ins. Like there's very simple, very low cost things that you can do like tomorrow that would pay dividends for you. But I would say think bigger, and I'm even doing this within my own business. Like we're always looking for ways that we can increase like how our clients experiences, because even if it's just when they're paying us, like I just think because then they'll totally send you more business if they feel like, wow, look at all this cool, like neat things. Like my mom was in real estate for like 35 years, bringing a gift to the closing, sending them a thing 6 months later, like just those little things that she did brought her so many clients just because she was making little tiny investments. And that was pre-email. That was back in the 90s. So that was back when you had to do mailers and stuff. So it's worth the investment. If you're at a place where financially maybe a big investment's not possible, look for the smaller things that you can do that are very low cost, and then you can increase it as you get more revenue, which is really exciting.
Now, with this capital relationship marketing idea, where you're basically just giving additional value to past clients.
Yeah.
Is there a strategy to actually guide them through the process of referring business to you? Like, is there, what do you do with your clients to kind of move the needle there and encourage people to take that next step?
We do, like in our business, we set it up. I would say set it up uniquely we try to set it up uniquely for each firm, because each firm is going to value and have a sort of place. So we do set it up uniquely, but what we have done for us that has worked really well is we call ours like a referral circle. So we just have a strategic plan that when our clients are offboarding with us, when we're and we even talk about it when we're working with them. So again, I work with people for a long time, so it might be years of time that I spend together. But even if we're only spending maybe a 3-month engagement of consulting, we're having a conversation going, hey, we have this referral circle. If you have been happy, if you're having that relationship, if you've been happy with us, we give a percentage of revenue, like we'll give a certain amount of money for each, great referral that they send us to somebody who actually decides to sign, we'll actually send a little monetary gift to them. So it's not a huge amount, but it's just a thank you, like a percentage. I think it's we're at 5 to 10%, which has worked really, really well. Now that might not be appropriate for firms, for other businesses, but you can see people do things like sending gift cards, sending, gift certificates, gift baskets, etc., as a thank you. So if they sign up to be a part of your quote unquote referral circle, they know that when they send a client their way and it's noted on maybe on the intake form, you have a note that notates who it is that has referred them, then you can send them through a process that gives them a thank you email and then a gift once the person signs up. It's real simple. It doesn't have to be a complicated affiliate program situation. It can be a very simple 2-step process, which is what we do.
Yeah, I love the idea of asking them, would they like to be a part of your referral circle program? Because then they're raising their hand and saying, yes, I do want to refer business to your firm. I never really thought of it that way of making it something that has a name that they can register for or apply to.
It's super simple. So if you have a CRM or something, which we do, we use Go High Level, but it's a great, we literally just move the person into a column that says ecosystem partner is what we call it. And that we know that person is someone who has agreed to be a partner with us. And that means how I communicate with them will be a little different than maybe how I communicate with someone who's just a past client who has opted out. So we have different follow-up strategies with these people based on their choice, because I'm not going to harass if they don't want to be a collaboration partner with us. Totally fine. I respect that. We're not going to send you a bunch of stuff you don't want to know about. So we really try to respect people enough to give them the choice. And then when they're whether it's verbal yes, or you can even have them fill out a quick templated form, 2 questions. There's many ways to do it. And it really needs to be set up unique to your firm and your ideal client. That's important.
And I love if you marry the 2 things that we're talking about together, right? So if you create a mixer or an event where you're inviting all your past clients to come, then you can have an incentive there.
That's right.
Hey, if you sign up to join our referral circle, which means that we're going to help guide you through referring us business, and you're interested in sending business our way, then we'll give you this. It's kind of like you walk into Costco, and if you sign up for the credit card, you get a free cooler bag or something.
Exactly.
Right? You have something that you're giving on the spot. Hey, here's a $100 Amazon gift card, and you just sign up for our referral circle, and you can have it.
That's right. And that's a good investment for your firm, especially as you grow, as you become maybe your boutique and you become mid-size, or you're mid-size and you want to be larger. As you grow, you can increase that investment because naturally your clientele will be maybe a little bit more high end is the word. I don't know how to say this but you know what I mean? It changes as you grow. Yeah, exactly. It changes as your business will scale. And so you can it's a fluid situation. So it can start small and then you can enhance it over time.
Yeah. And this goes back to knowing who your ideal client is. If you're a criminal attorney and your ideal client, even as you get bigger, it doesn't change. And it's that lower middle class, individual that is coming in, then that they're more likely to go to the movies or hang out at Dave & Buster's than be interested in a mixer in your office. Then maybe go and rent out Dave & Buster's and invite them all there. That's another. And actually, I don't know if it's a great idea to get a bunch of criminals in the room, but
well, criminal law is its own special firm, which I have not worked with criminal lawyers, so I don't have a lot of experience with that. But I would imagine it's a very different situation than they are often given their clientele versus people
But
in family
I mean,
law and stuff.
unless you're doing murders, like often these are, small felonies, smaller offenses. They're not really
Oh, that's
bad
correct.
people,
Yeah.
right? And they're often high volume businesses.
Mhm.
So you have a large amount of clients that
Yeah.
have done business with you. And if you can create an event once a year that you're inviting them all back to,
Yeah.
it can be a real experience, and it could be a great opportunity to sign them up for this. I really love this idea.
No,
The
every
referral
business
circle.
should do it in some capacity. It's because again, we do it. So, and I'm not a firm. So it's like we do it. It's so the customer journey, like we have this like kind of a line of a customer journey. It's the same. It's just the opportunities on that customer journey will look different for every industry. And so, but the advocacy thing is there for everybody. So many people sort of unfortunately kind of drop off once they engage with you, they sort of disappear. They just drop off and then they're gone. Whereas there's this whole other piece of the journey that is such a big opportunity. Like, and it's just once you have kind of gotten the entry point items and the engagement parts handled, this is the next logical place to look for gaps and opportunities, I would say.
Yeah, and there's so I was at Craig Goldenfarb. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's in South Florida. He hosts once a year, I think it is, million seven-figure attorney, millionaire attorney event. What, I forget the name of it. And I attended the one in New York, and one of the things that he shared is that they have a referral package that includes a brochure of how to refer business to our firm. And it actually highlights like their, what they do and what they're known for and why to use them.
Yep.
And where, if you have somebody who needs services, where to send an email to, and how to say it came from you. And they have other things included in there, which are the branded, attorney name on it, stuff that you can give to somebody.
I love that.
And so that's another idea to be, once if you're getting somebody to sign up to the referral circle, what if when they sign up, they now get a package in the mail that has some, tchotchkes for them, but it also has, here's how to refer us. Here's a bunch of, like he does personal injury. So he has like a branded insurance card holder for the car.
Yeah. Listen,
Because
like
if
that's
somebody
genius.
somebody gets into a car accident, they have to pull that
Yes.
out to give their insurance card, and boom, they've got the attorney's,
I love that so much.
name and phone number right there. But then you send 20 of them in that box,
Mhm.
like, here, give this out to your friends and family.
I love that.
So you can really take this idea and run with it, and do all kinds of things with it. I think this is
Very creative. And if you're very, you just naturally are a creative person, there's so many interesting, there's really not a lot of wrong ways to do this. The wrong way is to not have nothing. Like that would be, like I said, you can start really small. There's so many unique ways, and you can layer them. Like you can do multiple things. So that's even more fun, is when you can kind of expand it 3 months, 6 months, every 12 months. If we have a plan for infinity, like that's where it gets really cool and exciting.
Yeah. And I do want to just circle back to one thing that you shared, which is sharing a percentage of revenue. Many law firms are not allowed to do that, depending on what state you're in. So just, if you can't do it, just don't do it, right? Like
That's
if you can
right.
only share revenue with another law firm, then save that for law firm referral partners.
That's right.
And just have some sort of, you can even do exciting stuff like a leaderboard of referral,
yes.
people who referred us business this year, and they don't have to become clients, right? You referred us a lead, somebody called our office and it came from you, boom, you get a point for that.
I love that gamifying. That's great.
Have a leaderboard for it or something like that, where you can give a substantial prize to the winner, right? It just can't be a percentage of revenue.
That's 100% right. We are allowed to do that because I'm a totally different, like we're allowed to do that if we want to. So, but that's one of many ways you can send them like if you're not allowed to even do gifts, like you can even do some businesses, you can't even do giftings. Like just depends on the industry, how strict they are. So do what is not going to get you in trouble. That's really important. So do something safe. So like doing events and sending gift boxes or sending, things like that. You can get an account with like, you can make there. I mean, I have somebody who literally makes custom gift boxes. There's plenty of online things you can set up an account and just have your executive assistant like send it out, once that comes through. Like there's so many fun ways to do it that is not illegal for your industry. Really important.
Okay, I want to switch gears here because we focused on the referral side, which I mean the relationship marketing side, and I think that's huge. I think it's a
very important,
untapped area.
Yeah, agree.
For many businesses. We also talked about pay-per-click and or Facebook ads or whatever, paid advertising, getting involved in putting some money into the system to churn out leads and clients. We didn't talk about investing in SEO, and I want to tee this up because I have a very specific question for you. But I have found that the marketing agencies out there have done such a good job of getting in front of our clients that most firms, when they start to decide to spend money on marketing, are investing in SEO first.
Yeah.
And SEO it's a long game, and there's no guarantee that you're going to win, right?
Right.
So, and you kind of need to have SEO play alongside the other things like your LSAs, your map pack, and your pay-per-click ads, where people are seeing your name in 3 or 4 different places on the page. Now, they're more likely to say, "Oh, wow, this firm's everywhere. They must be good. They must be worth calling. I'm going to check them out." What are your thoughts, or how do you approach this with your clients? Where do you put SEO and investing in that in the list of priorities when it comes to to advertising or marketing, I should say? How do you approach SEO? How do you suggest that our listeners think about it?
I'm kind of in agreement with you. I look at SEO. SEO falls in the search marketing category, and like almost everything, YouTube would fall in there, podcasting, anything in the search category, I would consider like a long form. I call it long form, which means it's long, takes longer. Like it's a long form type of content. So it's not going to give you, the purpose of it is not to get a hit of dopamine. So it's not a quick, we're not putting gas on a fire. What it does do is its like goal is to figure out, as you know, people are looking for stuff. So the goal is when they're searching little things that we are the one that pops up. I would say it's a tool in the toolbox. It's not the only tool. That's important. That's sort of my answer to that. It's important when you're in a business like a law firm, a financial firm, anything where somebody's going to naturally search for something. We want to make sure that we have our SEO on lockdown, but it isn't just about paying, like doing paid traffic to that. It's also really important that we optimize our, posts that we put on our site, that our pages are optimized. And it's something we probably need to be refreshing on an ongoing basis. So there's some fluidity to it where we try it, we optimize it, and then you have to watch it. Like we were just talking about for a little bit of time to see how it's doing. It's a bit of a long game, and it's a little bit of a dance. So I would say for me, when my clients are like, it's the only thing that's important, I'm sort of trying to help them see that the best opportunities are not just in that category. There's actually what we just talked about, lots of great opportunities in other areas. And you might be surprised what the best opportunity is for your firm. You might think it's SEO and it's really this thing over here that's actually going to get you a quicker ROI. So I try to encourage clients to not get like trapped into only, this is the most important thing. Well, it's important, but it might not be the only thing. That's sort of my opinion. Like I don't live and die on one type of marketing. I think the holistic view is really key. But if you're a law firm who wants to grow your law firm, if you have no SEO, I can tell you right now, there's people on Fiverr that can help you with that are very good and not super de-duper big investment. So there's help for you tomorrow if you have nothing optimized on your SEO. You can get it taken care of tomorrow, which is great. That's the beauty of the internet.
Yeah. And so when it comes to these 4 buckets, right? Are you putting work into each bucket simultaneously with your clients? Are we focusing on one bucket at a time, one project at a time, and getting that going? How should somebody approach, like, okay, it's great to kind of put this into 4 different lanes, because it really helps us think about things separately
Yep.
and differently. But then when it comes to execution,
That's a whole different thing.
how do we, focus and impact change in our marketing?
So what I do with clients is when we actually look at strategic planning, we do a 90-day plan at a time. We also know, because this is the part of being a CMO, that we also have some ongoing things that are just going to naturally be happening in the background. But when I'm actually looking at what are we going to focus and fix in the next 90 days, what's our focus going to be? I'm looking at what is the best opportunity for them for growth right now? Like, what's the lowest hanging fruit for them? So I do ask, and this is where you can kind of take this and adapt it for yourself if you're listening to this. But I, at the beginning, have a pretty involved intake process and onboarding questionnaire where I'm asking a lot of questions about how they're getting traffic, where's their revenue coming from, like, what are their best months. I'm looking at the things that are working, and I'm looking at what they're putting their energy into. And as I go through that process with them, I'm going to start to see things, just because I can have this like bigger picture view. I'm not in their firm. So I have this ability to like take myself out of it and look at everything. And I'm going to see the best opportunities on that journey, like we were just talking about earlier. So that's how I approach it. We try to pick 3 or 4 kind of focuses that we're going to focus on that are the absolute best opportunities for that particular firm over the next 90 days. And then I know that I'm probably going to be also in the background overseeing if they have an agency that they're working with on their SEO, on their paid traffic. That's happening in the background sometimes while we're still looking at these other opportunities. So that can be a little hard if you don't have somebody like me there to kind of like manage it all. But just know that sometimes you can focus on a specific goal you want to achieve or a milestone for your marketing and still have a couple of these other initiatives going on in the background that are ongoing marketing initiatives that are important because they take longer, what have you. So like I'm overseeing SEO stuff for a client right now, but we're also really focused on optimizing her site for some lead generation items that need to be updated. So both of those things are happening at the same time, but the one is just a longer process that I'm going to be seeing for 6 or 7, 8 months, probably. I'm not sure if that's the answer like you're looking for, but that's kind of how I approach it to manage it a little bit easier.
I don't have an agenda on how you're going to answer a question.
Yeah, exactly.
I do think that it helps clarify like how somebody should approach this and think about it.
Yeah.
Now, you might focus on 3 or 4 at a time because you're just overseeing it, but you're just getting other parties involved.
Right.
Some of our listeners might be the ones doing these projects. So maybe you don't do 3 or 4.
You might do 2, and
right.
That's okay. Like I would say the biggest piece of advice I would give is not try to fall into the trap of doing everything all at once. Sometimes we can fall into the multi-channel marketing trap where we feel like we have to be doing everything, be everywhere. And that's actually a big, in my opinion, a mistake for many, many firms and many businesses, that you don't need to be everywhere all the time. It needs to be based on what we've already kind of talked about today. There's lots of factors involved on what to focus on first. But there are certain marketing things that you're going to need to do just like as a part of your daily operations and weekly operations, like showing up online, like having an optimized site, little things like that that are going to be ongoing. So if you're not working with someone like myself, maybe it's 3 to 2 things that you have as a focus for the 90 days, and then you have your ongoing things in the background instead. So that way you're not overwhelming yourself and your staff, and you will be able to hit the milestones that you want to hit. That's real key, to see the little things that you can check off.
Yeah, and that brings me to the question that's been simmering along throughout the conversation. I want to ask you about how does somebody you work with judge your performance, or how do you judge your performance as the CMO? In other words, what should the business owner be looking at
Mhm.
to determine the bird's eye view of it? Are the efforts that I'm putting in, are they moving the needle? What am
That's
I
a good question.
monitoring?
So we actually set that together. So I'm a big proponent of KPIs, which are key performance indicators for those of you who don't know that lingo. I'm a huge proponent of that. And so mine will be different for each business. So we actually do what's called a business dashboard with each client, where it's just a simple spreadsheet where we choose kind of the key indicators that are the ones that are going to help drive if it's revenue growth. So we actually, you do that for as well, but we also set a 90-day growth marketing plan together. And in that growth marketing plan, we choose, like I said, maybe 3 to 4 kind of best opportunities. And we set some overall KPIs that we would like to see in the marketing of the company for that 90-day period. And my responsibility is those particular KPIs. Okay. And then that business dashboard is what we use like on a weekly basis. So if I meet with a client weekly or bi-weekly, we're talking about those KPIs, and it's my responsibility to track them. If something is off, if it's not on in some capacity, it could be a revenue, it could be a conversion rate, it could be a lot of times it's number of leads in, and that's important versus the number of people that were on the page. So if some of those things are not hitting, then we're talking about, okay, how can we fix this? Like, let's talk through what this could look like. And so it's part of my job, not only to hit those goals, but maybe troubleshooting, because sometimes things just don't work. They don't work right away. And we have to sort of do some detective work. So problem solving is as big a part of my job as setting the goals. But I would say we set that together, and then I'm held to the specific marketing KPIs that is important to that particular firm. And if they're not sure how to do that, because they might not be, then I have some suggestions for them that I think would be appropriate for me to oversee and be held accountable for based on my experience. So sometimes I drive that, and sometimes we do thought partnership to set it together. No, but it's not just like, and then to be honest with you, a KPI for me, for a lot of the clients, is that this is not really something you can track, but it's like their time is freed up. That's an important kind of nuanced KPI that I sort of look at personally. That's a personal one I take on, because if you're bringing me into your firm, your time is then freed up to do whatever it is you deem important for you to then be focusing your time on, so you don't have to. So that's an important kind of more nuanced gray area KPI that I sort of track myself, that they're feeling and their time is much improved over that probably 6-month to 12-month period we worked together at the beginning.
Yeah, I love the idea of having a business dashboard. It really requires you to get clarity on what you need to measure and how you need to
Right.
report it. We had Mike Morse here on the podcast. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He wrote the book Fireproof, I think is the name of the book. From law school to a 150 person firm with Mike Morse, episode 144. You can find it at profitwithlaw.com/144 if you want to go listen to it. And he shared this idea of needing a jumbotron for your business, essentially
Yeah.
this business dashboard. And you kind of think about the sports analogy, right? Like if you go to a sports game, without the huge screen up there,
Yeah.
seeing the score, the fans would have no idea what was going on.
That's right.
Right? Nobody would know whether they should share or not share, and that energy feeds the players and their ability to play.
Yeah.
And really in your business, you need to have that dashboard because your team needs to know where they're at. You need to know where you're at. I mean, as
Yeah.
the manager of the team, right? Like you need to be able to call the next shot. Can't do it without that data. So love the idea of having a business dashboard that you're looking at. And that really requires you to understand what are the numbers that we
Right.
need to monitor. So Carrie, this has been a wonderful conversation. I mean, it really enlightening for me. I mean, just the whole relationship marketing piece. I think it we all know it, right? But we may not think of it a certain way.
Yeah.
And for me, and this might have clicked for some of our listeners, but for me, looking at the relationship marketing as something that you get somebody to opt into, to sign up for,
Yeah.
to say, yes, I want to participate in this, is huge, because that gives you permission to then talk directly to them about here's how to do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the missing component. And what a lot of people are doing is, yeah, I'm engaging with my past clients. I'm sending them a newsletter. I'm sending them emails. Maybe I'm even inviting them to an event or whatever it is. But there's a missing bridge in that
Yeah.
in that structure of how do I get them to actually be referring clients. And I think once they raise their hand, now that gives you permission to do stuff for them, with them, to involve them more in that process. And I think that's huge. And if our listeners just take that piece of our conversation and run with it, and do something with it, I think they're gonna reap dividends from it. But then there's the rest of it that gave structure to the conversation around the 4 different channels, and when you should think about focusing on them, and how you should structure the way you focus on them. I love the 90-day sprints, or the 90-day time frame. That's what we do with our elite clients, is actually quarterly. Every quarter we revisit the entire business plan, and we're looking at everything, not just marketing. We're looking at your staffing and your financials, your technology, your systems and processes, and figuring out where do you have the most room for growth, or where's your biggest bottleneck, and how do we solve that, to approach the main projects we're going to work on for the upcoming quarter. But at the same time, recognizing your own ability to implement and the resources available to you. If you don't have the resources available to implement 4 different marketing projects in a given 90-day period, then don't, because what's going to happen is you're going to do a little bit of each one and not have completion on any. And that's, you don't want to be there, because what's the purpose of 3 or 4 bridges built halfway? You never get to the other side.
Right. So true.
Yeah, so really important to get, be realistic with yourself. And then finally, putting everything together into a measurable format, so you have a business dashboard you can look at and be able to know, how are we doing? Are we making progress? And judging based on that. So really, really good stuff, Carrie. Thank you very, very much for being here and sharing that with us. As we close this out, I do the same thing for all of my guests. I'm going to ask you 2 questions. One, what is one parting piece of advice, wisdom you want to leave with our listeners? Number 2, what is a way that they can get in touch with you, take a next step with you, if they were intrigued by this conversation, they want to learn more about you, and or working with you? What does that look like?
Well, piece of advice. This is my mantra I use for myself. Keep moving forward. So even when times are challenging or amazing in your firm, just make sure to keep moving forward. And that's what helps me to stay going, because having your own company, whether it be a firm or just a online business, is very challenging at times. So just keep moving forward. That's very, very important to me. I keep trying to remind everybody. As far as how to get a hold of me, so if you're curious to learn more about our services and what we do, our website is virtualsimplicity.co. I'm also very active on LinkedIn. So if you just search my name, Carrie Flynn, it pops up. It says like marketing consultant for law firms. That's me. And I'm very active on LinkedIn, and you're welcome to connect with me there and chat with me. Feel free to direct message me. And of course I respond. So happy to chat with you there too.
Awesome. And folks, we're going to link all that up in the show notes. It's available in your podcast player in the resources section, as well as on our website at profitwithlaw.com. If this is the first time, or you're not subscribed yet to this podcast and you really enjoyed this conversation, you'll want to know the next time that we release a new one. We're here every Thursday morning. When you wake up, you'll find a new episode of the Profit with Law podcast with another great guest. And you can also be notified about that if you subscribe to us in your podcast player. So make sure to do so. Until next week, take Carrie's advice and don't give up. Stay consistent. Keep trudging and trekking along, and you will find success. Take care.